Welcome back, everyone. We're back with another Tigers Weekly episode. I'm here with my dog, Coach. How you doing, man?
Hey, doing all right. A little cold snap up here in Michigan, real quick, but we're looking forward to some better weather ahead.
Definitely, definitely. And we didn't scare Coach off. He's back for another episode this week. We got a good thing going. We got another win. We're 2-0 on Sundays when we do the show. So we got to keep that consistency just for the sake of, keeping a good thing going. So a decent week of baseball. We went down 3 out of 4 games to the Texas Rangers, but we bounced back and win the Twins series, which is a divisional rival on the road. But overall, what did you have any takeaways for the week with the games you saw?
Uh, as we've talked offline, pretty much on a daily basis or game to game basis, this team continues to fight. I think scrappy is the right word to use here. They had a game where they did jump out early today. I think they jumped out a little bit early too.
First inning.
They dominated really today, but we've kind of seen them not get used to, but get into a pattern of falling behind a little bit early and then almost waiting to get into that bullpen. And then once we get into that bullpen, that's when we've usually mounted, a lot of our back half game comeback wins. But it was good today to see them take a lead early and just hold it. Casey's first win since 2021. I think hopefully that's a confidence booster to him. Again, like you mentioned, division rival. You really want to show up for those games for the division race. Feels like it's going to be, again, a division title for playoffs or potentially nothing, but we'll see here. Yeah, again, a lot of the games were close within 2 runs. Almost every game this week, except for 1 or 2, were within 2 runs. So, I mean, as long as they're within that range, 2 or 3 runs after 5 innings, they always have a chance so far.
Definitely. Yeah, the recurring theme is, the starting pitching is pretty much held up their end of the bargain. And it's just a matter of them getting a little bit of run support and, possibly some defense out there. Yeah, they fared pretty well outside of one particular person, which we're going to get into right now. But as far as the good, the bad, and the ugly, starting with the good, Carpenter has been on fire. He has done a good job of getting runners in on base. He's hit for some power. He's hitting well over 300. So I'm glad to see that he's continuing the trend of last year. We had no idea what we had going into the season with Carpenter last year, and he had a great season with a slow end of the season. But he's got to hit the ground running after getting having had a little injury in the spring training. But overall, the lineup as a whole has kind of heated up as far as Riley Green, and Mark Canha have been a good 1-2 punch to start the lineup off. Torkelson's not hitting a super high average, but he had a pretty good series this weekend. But as far as guys that we weren't really expecting, Wenzel Perez had a couple of good games. He had the day off today, but he had triples in 2 back-to-back games. So you love to see stuff like that. But yeah, we need to continue to put some runs on the board. We're starting to score earlier in the game now. Like I said, we jumped right on the Twins earlier today in the first inning, which is good. But up until that point, we had scored about 50% of our runs at the 8th inning and less, which is crazy. Like, that's the league leader in runs after the 8th inning. So that's pretty much the good. As far as the bad, the lack of power. I think Meadows hit a home run. Meadows hit a home run over the weekend. Bud Kennedy. I'm actually speaking about this a little early, but Bud Kennedy hit a 2-run home run today. Most people probably don't even know who that is, but but yeah, we haven't hit for a lot of power thus far. So hopefully, as the weather gets warmer, we talked about that off camera. We haven't played in any warm climate areas as of yet. We played in Minnesota, we played in Detroit, played in Pittsburgh, New York, so Chicago. So hopefully, as our bats continue to warm up, we can start hitting the ball in the air and just getting some more runs in that aspect as well. As far as the ugly, um, the defense as a whole, Torkelson had a pretty rough string of games, and that's really what hurt us over in the Texas Rangers series is the fact that our pitchers kept us in the game. They ended up giving up a couple unearned runs due to the errors, but Torkelson had some errors. Colt Keith had an error. I think Scooble had a throwing error as well. So yeah, the defense, we definitely needed to tighten up, and in today's game we did pretty well in that aspect. But outside of that, Kenta Maeda, he's the one lone starting pitcher that has not been very good thus far. He had one good outing last weekend, but he's got touched up pretty good. I put in my notes, his splitter is getting split right now. Hanging up on, and the players, the hitters were definitely teeing off on him. One thing that I did want to mention, though, is that he historically has had bad Aprils. In his career, in March and April, he's 11-14 with a 5.01 ERA. He's given up 30 home runs, and he's had a rough Aprils. And as far as his career outside of March and April, his ERA is 3.75 in May, 3.14 in June, 3.69 in July, and 4.28 in August. So significantly higher ERA in April. So I can't bank on the fact that he'll continue that trend and get his act together later on in the year. But I do have to mention that that's pretty much characteristic of his career as of late to have shaky marches. Anything else you want to touch on as far as that you've seen as far as the good, bad, and ugly?
Yeah, no, you hit on a lot of good points there. To just kind of piggyback off of Maeda, it's at a point where he's got to prove it. So go out there, put together a few good starts. They don't necessarily have to be quality starts, although those would be ideal. That's a pretty good basic measuring stick to get through the lineup 3 times. Again, I think the rest of the starters still kind of, aside from Casey today, going back to the Texas series, again, going through the lineup the 3rd time tends to be kind of a mini blow up where we give multiple runs up, some earned, some unearned, in combo with some defensive miscues, which have been alarmingly high this week in just this week alone. We're just not fielding that great against the starting pitching in the bullpen. We are the team ERA 3rd place leader right now at a 3.03 ERA, and we are leading the league in opponent batting average at a paltry 208, just above the Mendoza line. So, between the starters as a whole and the bullpen, even with the long relievers, they're doing their job for the most part, and really keeping us in games, like you said. So when we get into that opponent's bullpen, we tend to wreak some havoc. The guys tend to start to perk up for whatever reason, and they start putting the ball in play. But you alluded to a good point: lack of power, even consistent power, not even just home runs, but slugging in general. Javi's looking at his line. I think it's still part of the ugly category. He's done some other things. He's 100% stealing bases, 5 of 5, which is good. So at least he's moving to get himself into scoring position without waiting for any other guys behind him who may be struggling, like Jake Rogers and Cole Keith, and to a degree himself just swinging the bat. But he's batting 185 with a 214 on base percentage. Doesn't he's got 18 strikeouts and a handful of walks. Not that great of a ratio. And slugging 277. Like it's getting hard to see him down there. Not he's had some clutch extra base hits. The few that he had have been timely. I think going back to Torkelson too, he's been struggling, but again, timely hits with him too. Not at the same time with Baez, but they kind of go back and forth a little bit in terms of when they do deliver and come through. It's not maybe every game together, but they're kind of sharing that one clutch timely hit to kind of get them going, especially in the later half of the innings. But we need to see some more consistency. I know we're going to take the strikeouts with Javi, take that to the bank. It is what it is. But, we need to start seeing some him putting the ball line to line, get some extra base hits, and really help kind of move and stabilize the bottom third of the lineup. Again, the two call-ups you mentioned with Winsell and Buddy Kennedy, guys have they produced a bit of a spark here the last 4 or 5 days. Probably Winsell going back to the mid-Texas series when he made his entrance in. It's been needed. I mean, every run right now that we get is needed because it is that scrappy. There are that close of games. So we can't really afford to give away any more at bats than what we are with guys in the lineup that are struggling as it is. So it's good to see these guys coming up and trying to put a name for themselves out there and prove that they belong for a bit and make the manager and GM's job a little bit tougher when guys like Urshela and Ibanez come back, kind of for alluding into that, with Urshela out. So, we need to see some of these guys produce, and they are. And it's really making a difference in some of these games right now, along with the pitching. So it's been good to see. Not going to harp too much on the defensive miscues. I think we all know where they stand at that. They're 20th in fielding overall. Tied for sixth with most errors. It's at 14, with the bulk of them coming this week, probably almost half of them, honestly.
Right.
So not a good time to get cold with the glove, but again, I think it was a benefit having seen Minnesota already prior to this weekend series. So and obviously again divisional team, so there's some familiarity. They can make adjustments, and so good momentum to close out the weekend heading into the new week.
Yeah, and just to elaborate on the point of Winsel Perez, like he's hit well, at least for the last couple of years. So it doesn't surprise me that much, that he's hitting. But I've been impressed by the way he's played defensively. I mean, we all know that he started off in the infield and kind of got moved out to the outfield, but he's done a pretty good job of defending his position. I also like the fact that he's a switch hitter. So, he really doesn't, although he's stronger from left side than he is on the right side. But I mean, he got a pretty big hit on the right side over the weekend as well. So, having a guy that can bat from, both ends and doesn't really have, a mismatch because, lefty on lefty, righty on righty on righty. That type of ability is always important. So got the day off yesterday. I mean, off today, which I was kind of disappointed about, but worked out for the better because I guess that only happened because Riley Green, they all get moved around so much, so it's hard to keep up with it. But obviously, Riley Green going back into the lineup, it kind of pushes someone out, and he just ended up being that person. But we handled business today. We scored 5 or 6 runs. So all is well that ends well. And we're going to get to our first break. All right. We are back, and we've got to touch base on everything that is Tigers thus far. But what do we have going on in the AL Central?
Well, our Tigers right now are 12-10, based on their analytics. MLB Savant Statcast has them right around 11-500. So, not much has changed since last Sunday in terms of those projections. Still sitting third. I'll say, although we've played very well on the road compared to home so far.
Mm-hmm.
We were 8-3 on the road, 4-7 at home. So maybe this continued road trip heading into the beginning of the week will continue to serve the Tigers well. Obviously said they dropped a series to Texas, took the Minnesota series. Still only 4-6 in their last 10 games. Right around the even run differential. The Cleveland Guardians, though, hot, hot. Number one in the AL, 16-5. They have a plus 52 run differential, which is absolutely mind-boggling right now. So they also are leading the AL in runs scored too by a few, I believe, over the Yankees. So they are off to a terrific start. A couple other teams around the league that are off to great starts. As mentioned, Yankees right behind them. Baltimore 14-7. And over the National League, you've got Atlanta 14-5, Philly 14-8, along with the Milwaukee Brewers, who made some moves in the offseason. People thought maybe they would have a little bit of regression. They're off to a 14-6 start as well. That pretty much rounds out the AL Central and around the rest of the league in that regard.
All right. And I'm just going to touch base on what we got going on in the farm system right now. Definitely the biggest story to talk about is Max Clark, who started off slow. He's definitely a guy that's going to continue to get that comparison to what is the Rangers guy?
Oh, Willie
Langston?
Langford.
Langford, yes. Obviously, we just had a series with him, and he's kind of been up and down. I think he's had a little bit of success, but he's looked overmatched at times. But we obviously chose the high ceiling and young guy over Langford. But in the past 8 games, Max Clark is hitting 413 with 9 RBIs, six walks, and 4 stolen bases. And last night, he hit his first home run of his professional career. So, the one thing we knew that he was going to hit for average at some point. He was going to be a great defensive guy, but the power was the one thing that we were looking to see. So I was excited to see him get his first home run, and it was, it was no cheap home run. It was a no doubter. So hopefully he continues to build that confidence and climb through the ranks because, those number 1 picks have a lot of expectations, and he's already got naysayers. He's got a pair of cleats. You got to look him up. He's got a pair of cleats with some receipts from some haters that have, been talking down on him, and he's got the receipts right on his cleats to remind him every day. So he's going to use that as motivation, and as of late, that's what he's done. He's tore it up in Lakeland, and I hope to see him in West Michigan very, very soon, and just to see where he ends up for the year. Outside of that, Jace Jung, another one of our top prospects who's in AAA, hit a 444-foot bomb earlier today. He's continuing to show the power that we hoped that he would display. And outside of that, Akil Baddoo has continued to hit decently well, but Keston Hiura, who plays first base, and he played AAA for the Brewers all last year. He had a strong spring training, and he continues to tear the ball, to tear the cover off the ball. He's hitting 338 right now. He's got 3 home runs and 12 RBIs. So that pretty much covers. I was going to talk about Buddy Kennedy because Buddy Kennedy was doing very well down there, but he's obviously got an opportunity now with Gio Urshela going on the do they call it the disabled list still?
It's the injured list now.
Injured list, yeah, the IL, yeah. But I'm gonna let that parlays right into the injury report. I'm gonna let Coach handle that right now.
Real quick, if you got any numbers on minor league for Buddy?
Oh, let me see.
If not, that's all right. I was just curious. If not, then
yeah, I think he was hitting like 280 down there, but
not bad. Better than most up here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'll go ahead and take over from there. Yeah, it's a bit of a lengthy list, a little busier this week in terms of injuries and transactions. We're going to kind of do it chronologically here. So back near the beginning of the week, the Tigers had claimed right-handed pitcher Ty Adcock off waivers from the Mariners on the 15th and designated him to Toledo. Followed on the 17th, right-hand pitcher Brennan White was placed on the development list at Toledo, which from what I had read and understood that a player must accept that development tag, if you will, to basically it gets some more instructional teaching and stuff like that. I'm not sure what that means contractually, but obviously there's some type of difference in being an active player. But he had only faced 13 batters. He had 6 walks with 1 hit by pitch. Appeared in 33 games last year with 23 earned runs on 40 hits, on 40 and 2/3 inning pitch with 15 walks, 5 hit by batters, and only 44 Ks. We do unfortunately have an update on Sawyer Gipson Long, who we noted who was talking with some other teams, doctors and surgeons, and for other opinions on his elbow. For those who don't recall, he went down to Lakeland to do a rehab start. He originally had I believe, a right leg injury, either groin or hamstring, and then all of a sudden this elbow issue surfaced. But he will be requiring UCL surgery or Tommy John's, and will miss the rest of the remainder of the year. Projection probably won't happen until surgery is completed and they get at least a couple weeks out and they know kind of roughly how the surgery went and how the injury starts to heal from that standpoint well before rehab begins. So that will be a loss for them. He didn't break the club with them, so it's hard to call it a loss, but obviously what he did last year, we were hoping he could build on this year for the club. So missing him in general, especially until he, is able to kind of recover from the surgery and then be there. I'm sure he'll be there in the dugout during home series and whatnot, be there for the guys. But the more recent one, Gio Urshela, went down beginning of, I believe, Friday night of the Minnesota series with a right hamstring strain. He was placed on the 10-day IL. However, he was commented saying, even though it was a grade 1 strain, which is the lowest, he may be out a few weeks. So it could be up to 14 days. So we'll probably have to keep an eye on it between that 7 to 10-day range heading into next weekend to see how he's feeling. And as Foster alluded to, the Tigers had recalled Buddy Kennedy from Toledo. We finally were able to get some other information. We knew that Eddie's Leonard had been out with a left oblique strain that had been noted for most of the week. However, there was some additional information on Ryan Kreidler, who actually has a fractured right index finger. So that is the reason why he has not been chosen for any of the more recent call-ups. So we'd expect him to be out at least for the next week or two. Finger fractures, especially throwing, grabbing the bat, tend to take a little bit longer to get back into the swing of things. But that wraps up in terms of injuries and transactions for the week.
All right, and we're going to take our next break here. All right, we are back. And just to give you guys an idea, I looked up Buddy Kennedy's stats before he came up. He was hitting 288 with 2 home runs and 9 RBIs. So solid.
It's respectable, yeah.
Yeah, deservedly got that call up. But yeah, he fun fact about Mr. Buddy Kennedy. He went to the same high school as Trout from the Angels.
Okay, all right.
Actually, pretty close friends and are on they hunt together. They're on the same hunting group. So Trout said that if you hit a home run in your first start with the team, that he can stay at his hunting. I'm sure
okay.
his stay wherever Trout's at is fine. It's fine real estate, I would assume. So Kennedy let it be known, no turning back on this. I hit a home run like you wanted me to do in my first debut. So you got to own up to that bet. So so yeah, that was a little fun story that they were saying, because he's hitting, saying that's the best player from their high school, and he's got the best stats, on the year, because he's hitting like 400 right now.
Little hometown bragging rights, of course.
Yeah,
Hey, any incentive that produces more offense for us, I'm down with. So yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's just a little fun fact about Buddy Kennedy. Hopefully he can keep it up for the foreseeable future. But any news around the league that's worth touching on?
Yeah, not much. I'd say the biggest thing that probably broke today. I think a lot of baseball diehard fans, especially now Dodgers and fans of whether you're the Angels or Dodgers out there in LA. Shohei Ohtani broke the Japanese home run record previously held by Hideki Matsui. They were tied at 175. He did break that today, so now he does hold that now distinctive crown for all-time Japanese home run record.
All right, and we got, of course, another fun week of Tigers baseball. Who do we have on tap coming up this week?
Well, they're going to continue their little short two series road trip, if you will. They're going to head down to Tampa for 3, starting Monday through Wednesday. It's going to lead off strong. We're going Skubal on Monday, Kenta Maeda on Tuesday, and a Wednesday evening, not a matinee, Wednesday evening game with Flaherty. Before we open up a 3-game set over the weekend with the Kansas City Royals for the first time this year, which, thank God, they have an off day Thursday for the first time in 2 weeks, not counting any rain delays or anything like that. They were originally scheduled to play 14 consecutive days, and with the injuries and some of the extensive use of bullpen over the last 2 weeks, Lord knows, I think it'll be a good reset time-wise for them when it comes to just kind of refocus, maybe get back to some fundamentals on defense, hopefully, shore that up a little bit, or even if it's just taking some mental time off with family, significant other, and just kind of break some of the monotony that they've been the last 2 weeks. But they will open that Friday day game, mind you, for all you Lions fans out there, day 2 of the NFL draft. It is a day game on Friday at 1:10. We'll have Reese Olson going. Saturday evening will be Casey Mize. And to round it out, the Sunday matinee will be Skubal pitching for the second time in the calendar week before they welcome in an old NL rival, St. Louis Cardinals.
All right. So yeah, before we wrap up the show, I definitely want to touch base on just some things that we want to look, some things we want to look at moving into the upcoming week. For me, just 2 guys that have thus far not held up their end of the bargain, and I'm curious to see what the leash is on these guys, because at this point they are somewhat of a liability. One being Kenta Maeda. Like I said, he's had, I think, 3 or 4 starts thus far, and probably just one that I can say that was,
I would agree.
What, respectable, is that the word I want to use? I don't know.
One decent start. Wasn't a blow up. Yeah, they were able to do something with it, but yeah, he didn't. Only one though. Yeah.
And the beauty of it, actually, the last start, which was a pretty rough one, is that he wasn't even on. He wasn't even responsible for the loss in that one, because we did get back in that game, so he wasn't even on the hook for the loss in that one. But yeah, I'll be watching the next start real close to see if he makes any adjustments and if he can get more command of anything, honestly, but especially that splitter, because he's not going to throw any harder than 89, 90 miles an hour. So if he doesn't have command of that, and the splitter is hanging like that, he's going to continue to get touched up pretty bad. But outside of that, Parker Meadows is obviously an amazing defensive center fielder, and all that good stuff. But he, along with a couple of other guys, Rogers and him and Rogers is the ones that jumping out at me are basically just automatic outs at this point. It's not too much that they're bringing to the table. So I'm curious to see. I mean, the grumblings from the fans is already starting about how long are we going to allow Meadows to play nearly every day, considering um, he's not swinging at bad pitches per se, but when he does get something that he can drive, he's not doing anything with it. So it's like, what do you do there, especially when you got guys like Wenceel Perez that have been doing pretty well, and you can put Matt Vierling out there in center field if push comes to shove. So yeah, I mean, how long before we send him down to kind of build some confidence back up and to see if he can turn things around. But outside of that, I feel like Baez is starting to maybe turn a corner. Um, 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 he's still working his way back up from where he started, which is why he's still not above the Mendoza line, but he has come up clutch in some situations, and he got some extra base hits, and he's actually had a couple walks as well. He had a walk today, and it's becoming less and less surprising and exciting that he's putting the bat on the ball and not swinging at quite so many outside sliders. So hopefully he can continue to build on that. And Torkelson still has. I mean, I think he had over 30 home runs last year, and he's still looking for that first home run. He missed a home run today by inches. He hit one hard off the wall today. So he's continued to do pretty well in that 3 slot. It would just be nice if he could turn some of those extra base hits into home runs, because you get those guys on base, and it's nice to be able to walk home freely sometimes and not have to worry about you know you know running those bases when you got guys that can hit one over the fence. So outside of Carpenter, we really don't have anybody that's hitting for power. So I really want to see Torkelson get off the schneid and get a home run. And of course, I want Wenceel Perez and Bud Kennedy to build on the success they've had, because they've done a really good job at replacing Ibanez and Urshela, who were our most consistent hitters thus far. So we really haven't missed too much without those guys so far. So yeah, anything else you want to see going into the upcoming week?
No, I liked what you touched on there, Parker, too. Like, I think you may have even possibly, who knows, alluded to a potential additional major league debut. Not saying that they would necessarily go that route, but if Max Clark continues to progress, he might not even see AAA in order this year. He might
You
end up
think
jumping.
so?
Oh, I mean, just saying it's saying if all things status quo stay the same, if Parker continues to struggle, and with the injuries that we've had, if Vierling's got to play more infield than outfield, and Perez and Ken, are doing okay. If Max continues to produce, and I think we talked a little bit offline right around the time of opening day, game 1 of 1, that is, not Detroit's opening day. You know, the front office was pretty clear, after Miggy retired last year, they wanted to see more of their youth up. So that's why I think we have guys who probably maybe don't necessarily deserve, based on their more recent stats in the last year or two, probably would not be up in AAA because we have so much youth up with the big club right now. So you add injuries to that situation and guys who are struggling. Um, there could, who knows, maybe it may not be for another 4 weeks, could be another 8 weeks from now, where they've given Parker an extensive number of ABs, playing at least 6-7 innings a game. I know we've seen him be pinch hit for, which is wild considering he's great defensively. One of
Right.
the few guys that we can say, you know what, I have no issue putting him out there. I am not concerned about him, missing largely routine or non-challenging plays, where we've seen guys like Torkelson and Colt Keith. Even some fielding errors on trying to apply a tag on the runner when he's dead to
Right.
rights between second and third.
Do you think that
Um,
that tweaked his hamstring at all? That collision he had? I didn't even think about that.
well, he didn't collide. The runner ducked. He ducked underneath and missed the
But
tag,
they
but
kind of their legs
but
got tangled up.
could
Maybe
be. But that
not.
was what, like Wednesday midweek, right, against Texas,
It
and then
was, yeah,
he
it was
went
a
down
while.
and he came out Friday, and they played every day. So who knows? Maybe it could have been the part one of two to get it to that aggravated state, and then Friday was the other half per se. Who
Right.
knows? They're not going to tell us everything when it happens. It's what they tell their doctor and the manager behind closed doors. But I who knows? I don't think it's out of the question. If guys are struggling and and we've seen the rumor mill this last 3 or 4 days. Tigers may be in the market for a bet, but I'm going to take that rumor with a very small grain of salt. It's still mid-April, mid to late April ish. I think they're more willing to look at internal call ups to possibly provide that spark before they go out and commit money, resources to a trade and bring a guy in, because then that would just further create a bottleneck for some of the younger guys. Someone would have to go down or get released or traded. And if that were the case, if they were bringing a new face not on the 40-man roster. So who knows? Maybe it's June, July, August. Maybe it's not at all for Max Clark. But as long as he continues to produce, he's going to make it difficult on them to keep him down there. So we'll see. I think Parker deserves all the chances that come with a guy who was taken as high as he was and graded as high as he was. So while he struggles with the bat, he's still good defensively. So we'll see from there. But you know. Uh, same old with this team based on what we've seen. Bullpen starters outside of Maeda. I'd like to see Maeda's next couple starts here, see what happens. But I think as we touched on it last week, they're in a good spot too. And yeah, they got Matt Manning and they got someone else down there too in the minor leagues. And guess who's also a former starter who's pitched, I think, extremely well out of the long relief role has been Faedo. So if in an emergency spot they could do it, but I think he's proven himself very valuable in long relief. I mean, that's not easy to ask a pitcher to do, but given his pedigree as a starter, he's got that stamina. He's used to pitching like that. He had to come out very quick for that last Maeda start. I'm pretty sure it was the same inning that he had to get up to get loose that he came in for to finish that inning. So I think Maeda win, I think 2 2/3 that game. So, Faedo probably had 15, 20 minutes to get ready. And for a long reliever, that's a very short amount of time. So the fact that he was able to help limit the damage that Maeda had created from his bad start, again, positive sign. You know, their strength is in their arms. They're timely hitting. They're kind of I don't want to say station to station team, base to base, but they do on offense a lot of the little things right. Hit and run. They tend to steal at the right time. They don't really get thrown out too much
We
in
just
terms of
don't
stealing
bunt.
bases.
That's
So
the problem.
yeah. But I mean, if you're able to put the ball in play and get guys over and move them, getting in a scoring position for other guys, it's still a recipe to put up some runs. But I think the other aspect of it too is, we talked about it offline. Mark Hanna had batted leadoff on either Friday or Saturday, and that's unheard of for a guy that's been largely kind of dependent on with Carpenter to help drive runs in and score runs. So now he's been batting all over the lineup too. But injuries as well, off days come into a factor. But so we've seen a lot of different lineups. So again, with this platoon thing we've talked about, now we complicate it with injuries. So guys are kind of batting all over the place right now. So I'm still a little leery about offensive consistency. What's one thing to play a different defensive position, but if Mark doesn't know where he's batting 1 through 5 almost every day, he's a veteran. Don't get me wrong; he's going to take the same approach no matter what. But some of the younger guys, it might mess with their head a little bit, not intentionally, but okay, I might have to change the way I approach. Might have to be more patient or more aggressive. So who knows? I think just being competitive, looking at the week ahead, just being competitive, still being scrappy. You're fighting for everything. So honestly, if the defense improves, I think they could come out with a winning record for the week. I think that's kind of the way we have to look at it right now. You may not, yeah, you want to win series, but right now, if you win weeks overall, you're trending in the right direction. So we'll see what happens, and obviously, as we mentioned, they got an off day on Thursday, so hopefully that's a nice little recharge for them.
All right, I want to elaborate a little bit more on the Parker Meadows thing after this break, and then we're going to wrap everything up. All right, just to wrap things up as far as the Parker Meadows situation, well, as it relates to Max Clark, I think we're still a season off from seeing him anywhere near the major leagues, just because he's just now a year fresh out of high school, and he's had a good stretch, a quick stretch at at the lowest level of minor league baseball. So I would love to see him continue that trajectory, hit for power, and do all that. And he'll be well on his way soon enough. But as far as Parker Meadows, I think that the one thing that he has going for him is the fact that we've had so many injuries to third baseman type guys, and the fact that Matt Vierling is our starting third baseman right now. So
Yeah.
the fact that he's going to play third base on most days until Ibanez and Urshela get healthy, that's going to keep anybody, because we don't really have a guy at the center field position, primarily at the center field position at the AAA level. You got Akil Baddoo, who pretty much plays corner outfield, and a few other guys. But as far as the center fielder, I think that Vierling is the one guy that can play everyday center field if you do send Meadows down. And with Ibanez and Urshela still being out, you need Vierling over at third base to hold that down. So he's going to get, some more opportunities up until when those guys get healthy. When those guys get healthy, if he's still hitting under 100 come mid-May, close to June, something's got to give. So
I think it depends on the race too, where they're at in the division too. If they start falling behind, then yeah, you need a spark. You got to send them down. But if they're still hovering around, 4 or 5 games back, they might stick with him a little bit longer to try and get him, into the cages, talking with the hitting coach, teammates, all that. So yeah, I agree. Realistically, Max is probably not seeing light of day at the big club this year unless something completely something drastic happens, with the team in general or whatnot. But again, I think that's an outlier. But yeah, I agree. They got plenty of options up right now that they can play around with.
Absolutely. And yeah, unless you have anything else, I think that pretty much wraps things up for the show today.
No, that's it. Yep. Probably challenging series with the Tampa Bay Rays, some young talent with themselves, and quick turnaround with Kansas City, who's sitting right ahead of Detroit, off to a very good start themselves.
Absolutely. So that wraps up another weekly episode with Coach. Definitely want to subscribe to Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube, and do that as well on all streaming platforms. We're everywhere: Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all that good stuff. You can Google Bleachers to Speakers, and all those different things will come up. And just stay tuned. We got another week of baseball coming up, and we will definitely be back to review that. Yeah, I'm out.